Okay, so in the last tutorial we had our forward and backward speed set up and animated. So now we're going to work on setting up our strafe animation, and it's basically the same thing. We're going to get rid of this to do our strafe movement because that was a glitch in the last video. And what we're going to do first is very simple. Grab this and set all of these to Y. Okay, so player speed, player speed, player speed. Okay. Oh, okay, that's why. Alright. Throwing myself off there. Okay, so player speed, this should be skill 2. Oh, right. And sorry about that. I threw myself off again once more. But this should be 0, and this should be negative 15. Okay. And it's that simple to set up the strafe movement after we set up the forward and backwards movement. Besides the fact that we still haven't told it to stop moving. So let's do that now. And I forgot to set that to a 2. Now, we don't want him to stop abruptly like that, or at least I don't. So, to fix that, we put a simple if command in here. And if my.skill1 greater than 0, then my.skill1 minus equals 10 times time. We'll set 10's too much, times 5 times time step. Now, one thing I will note is that when you're only dealing with one line of code, you don't need to have brackets around your code. So that's why I didn't put the curly brackets this time. Else, we're going to copy all of this. If it's less than 0, then it's going to go up. And otherwise, my.skill1 equals 0. Now, because it's going to always get to 0 and then possibly go past and then come back and go past, it's just going to keep, doing a bit of a loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if it's greater than that, plus 5, or so we could even just say 5, and if it's less than negative 5, otherwise it's 0. So anywhere between 5 and negative 5, it will just stop, but it still won't be such an abrupt stop, which is perfect. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Oops, we're down here. So we have to set these to skill 2. And that's it. Okay, and I know in the previous tutorial I said that I was going to implement jumping in this one, but I'm not going to implement jumping yet. The first thing I'm going to do is implement a run. Okay, so in order to do that with the way we have it set up now, okay, we're just going to say that if key shift equals 1, run speed equals, and we'll add 5. Okay, so run speed equals 5, else speed equals 0. Okay, and we actually don't need these curly braces because it's just one line of code each. So we can save that, and now we're going to define that up here. Var run speed equals 0 to start. Not that it matters, because when it gets to here it would set it to 0 anyway. Right? So now we're going to say okay, so it's equal to 15 plus run speed. So if run speed is 0, it's just going to be plus 0. And this would be negative 15, and then you need to subtract 15. So actually, you only need to be able to run forward, so that's perfect. Can't really run any other direction than that anyway. Okay, so now our animation looks a little strange. So what we're actually going to do is it's going to be plus. So if my.skill1 doesn't equal 0, and then put an else here, because we don't want it to double up on the animation if we're strafing and walking forward at the same time. So we're going to do an individual check to see as long as this isn't being pressed, or sorry, as long as there is forward or backwards movement, it will animate. And if there is no forward or backward movement, then it will check to see if there is strafing movement. And if there is any strafing movement, then it will animate. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust it so that it's my.skill1. So it'll actually go the speed that it's incrementing at. It seems like it's having a bit of a time doing that. So we're going to say divided by 1.5. And that's too slow. So maybe the issue is not that, it's times 1.5. So let's try and make it a bit faster. Yes, that's much better. So you'll see what I've done there is I've pushed the F11 button, and it brings up this panel so I can see the frames per second, so I can make sure that it's animating at the correct speed and that there's no actual lag. The reason why we have that is because we included the default.c file. If we didn't have that in there, we wouldn't have access to that debug menu. So now we have a run, a walk, backwards, and a strafe. Okay, so I'm thinking that these values here can be less, but that's another tutorial.